This section, please move yourself over to the section. Again, if you're presenting today and you are not yet over in the first 2 rows of this section, please head over there now. Good morning, everybody. Thank you all for coming out here today, and welcome to Pentucket's Poetry Out Loud 2018. My name is Kevin Inger.
And I'm Lindsay Pfifferling.
Before we begin, we would like to send out a couple of thank yous.
Our first thank you is to Troy for playing his wonderful music during the presentations. And then our wonderful bouncers next to the doors, Joe Lynch, Tyler Mitchell, Zach Roberts, and Charlie Greenberg.
Additionally, we have a huge thank you to both Ben Bulio and Tyler Pfifferling for putting in so much work throughout this whole process. Let's give a round of applause to them. And finally, we'd like to thank Ms. Cromwell as well as the whole English department for doing such a great job throughout the entire process. All right, our first rule of the house. From this point on, we don't clap. Do you guys know what we do? Good, we snap. Beyond that, the next thing we have our Twitter hashtags. So throughout the live coverage, if you tweet out anything with the hashtag POL19, we will announce it to the entire ceremony. So without further ado, we'll get started. Our first presenter is Ella Moradian.
Since There Is No Escape by Sarah Teasdale. Since there is no escape, since at the end my body will be utterly destroyed, this hand I've loved as I've loved a friend, this body I've tended, wept with, and enjoyed. Since there is no escape, even for me, who love life with a love too sharp to bear, the scent of orchards and the rain, the sea, and hours alone too still and sure for prayer. Since darkness waits for me, then all the more let me go down as the waves sweep to the shore in pride, and let me sing with my last breath. In these few hours of light, I lift my head. Life is my lover, I shall leave the dead, if there is any way to baffle death. Thank you.
Thank you, Troy.
All right, we got our first couple of tweets on our hashtag. Again, the hashtag is POL19 if you want to tweet something out. Our first one is from Maxwell Markins. Hey, Kevin Inger, you're looking fantastic. We also have one from Jack Queenan. Oh, no, from Jack Cloyce. Lily Queenan and I love poetry out loud. We also think Kev and Lindsay look like a smoke show up there. Thank you.
All right, up next is Lauren Kelly.
This is Sleeping Sister of a Farther Sky by Karen Volkman. Sleeping sister of a farther sky, dropped from zenith like a tender tone, the lucid apex of a scale unknown, whose whitest whisper is an opaque cry of measureless frequency. The spectral sigh you breath, bright hydrogen and brighter zone of fissured carbon, consummated moan and ceaseless rapture of a brilliant why. Will nothing wake you from your livid rest? Essence of either an astral stone, the stunned polarities your substance weaves in one bright making, like a dream of leaves in the tree's mind, summered, or as a brooding bone roots constellations in the body's nest.
Just a reminder to stay quiet in the house, to give everyone the equal amount of respect.
Our next reciter is Emma Fandel, Quiet in the House.
More Lies by Corinne Gottschall. Sometimes I say I'm going to meet my sister at the cafe, even though I have no sister, just because it's such a beautiful thing to say. I've always thought so. Ever since I read a novel in which two sisters were constantly meeting in cafes. Today, for example, I walked alone, on the wet sidewalk, wearing my rain boots, expecting someone might ask where I was headed. I bought a steno pad and a watch battery. The store windows fogged up. Rain in April is a kind of promise, and it costs nothing. I carried a bag of books to the cafe and ordered tea. I like a place that's lit by lamps. I like a place where you can hear people talk about small things, like the difference between azure and cerulean, and the price of tulips. It's going down. I watched someone who could be my sister walk in, shaking the rain from her hair. I thought, even now, florists are filling their coolers with tulips, $5 a bundle. All over the city, there are sisters. Any one of them could be mine. Thank you.
Thank you again, Troy. We have a couple more tweets. We have one from Simon Bissett, and he says, I absolutely love poetry. It is very relaxing. We have another one from Brian Inger, and he said, Kevin, you should hit the gym, buddy. Yikes. And then another one from Maxwell Markins, and he said, I'm at lunch, but I can feel the good poems from here. So thank you, Max.
Our next presenter is Nathan Oliphant. Everyone, quiet in the house.
A thank you note by Michael Ryan for John Scoyles. My daughter made drawings with the pens you sent, line drawings that suggest the things they represent. Different from any drawings she, at 10, had done. Closer to real art, implying what the mind fills in. For her mother, she made a flower, fragile on its stem. For me, a lion, calm, contained, but not a handsome one. She drew a line for me once before on a get well card and wrote, I must be brave, even when it's hard. Such love is healing, as you know, my friend, especially when it comes unbidden from our children, despite the flaws they see so vividly in us. Who can love you as your child does? Your son so ill, the brutal chemo, his looming loss owning you now, yet you would be this generous to think of my child. With the pens you sent, she has made, I hope, a healing instrument.
All right, we know you guys love the tweets, so I'll keep them coming. So Maddie said, this is the classiest thing I've ever been to. Sam Bissett says that Kevin is looking fine today. We have some mixed emotions about Kevin's looks today. And there's one more.
We got a tweet from McLean, a haiku. People speak poems. Hopefully John Davis will really ace this thing. Anyways, real quick again, our Twitter hashtag is POL19. Please feel free to shoot out tweets and we'll announce them up here.
All right, and up next is Eric Normandy.
Everyone, quiet in the house.
Light Shining Out of Darkness by William Cowper. God moves in a mysterious way, his wonders to perform. He plants his footsteps in the sea and rides upon the storm. Deep in unfathomable minds of never-falling skill, he treasures up his bright design and works his sovereign will. Ye fearful saints, fresh courage take. The clouds ye so much dread are big with mercy and shall break and blessings on your head. Judge not the Lord by feeble sense, but trust him for his grace. For behind that frowning providence, he hides a smiling face. His purposes will ripen fast, unfolding every hour. The bud may have a bitter taste, but sweet will be the flower. Blind unbelief is sure to err and scan his work in vain. God is its own interpreter, and he will make it plain. Thank you.
Quiet in the house. Alrighty. Up next, we have Brandon Berube.
Quiet in the house.
This is Not a Horse by Natalie Chaparro. What I adore is not horses with their modern domestic lifespan of 25 years. What I adore is a bug that lives only one day, especially if it is a terrible day. A day of train derailment, chemical leak, a cop admits a cover-up. A day when no one thinks of anything else, least of all that bug. I know how it feels, born as I've been into these rotting times, as into sin. Everybody's busy, so distraught they forget to kill me. And even that won't keep me alive. I share my home not with horses, but with a little dog who sees poorly at dusk and whose menaces stumps make her muscles known to every statue. I wish I could have a single day of language with her so that I could reassure her our whole world is dead and so can do you no harm.
All right, so now the first lunch is over. If you have another class during this period, you should probably get to it.
In the interim, we're going to read a couple tweets we've had. Ben Bulio says, Tyler doing an amazing job on the sound waves. I'm sure we can all agree Ben's doing a great job as well. Emma Shute says, Liddy is slaying up here. Liam Carlson says, shout out to everyone reciting the poems. Ben Bulio again says, I really wish Sam Bissett was reciting his poem today. And Henry Endig says, let's go Zach Haynes. Anyways, we'll move on to our next poet. Poet reciter.
All right, our next poet, or reciter, will be Joe McCandless.
Quiet in the house.
Was I like supposed to dress up or something? I Eat Breakfast to Begin the Day by Zubair Ahmed. I create time. I cannot create time. I'm frozen in place. I cannot be frozen. I'm moving, but don't notice. I notice me moving. I pay attention to the small, yet immense, yet small movement that guide my limbs, my hair growth, my joint oils. I don't think about it. I don't feel it either. I don't have emotions right now. I see films of divine quality. I don't see any films. This black, this not black, to me I am not to me not. I walk with this hollowness. I walk with this blooming. Outward, eternally inward, I resign to the clocks that keep the time. I surrender to the clocks that don't keep time. I'm sure about it, the color white. I'm not sure about it. What is word? Oh, the loops and unloops. Destiny unfolds at my knees. I eat breakfast to begin the day. Subscribe to Gonzo Dad Twitter.
Our next presenter is Olivia Colby. Quiet in the house.
Father by Edgar Albert Guest. My father knows the proper way the nation should be run. He tells us children every day just what should now be done. He knows the way to fix the trusts. He has a simple plan. But if the furnace needs repairs, we have to hire a man. My father, in a day or two, could land big thieves in jail. There's nothing that he cannot do. He knows no word like fail. Our confidence he would restore, of that there is no doubt. But if there is a chair to mend, we have to send it out. All public questions that arise, he settles on the spot. He waits not till the tumult dies, but grabs it while it's hot. In matters of finance, he can tell Congress what to do. But oh, he finds it hard to meet his bills as they fall due. It almost makes him sick to read the things lawmakers say. Why, father's just the man they need. He never goes astray. All wars he'd very quickly end, as fast as I can write it. But when a neighbor starts a fuss, 'tis mother has to fight it. In conversation, father can do many wondrous things. He's built upon a wiser plan than presidents or kings. He knows the ins and outs of each and every deep transaction. We look to him for theories, but look to Ma for action.
Everybody who's coming in, can you please come in real promptly? We got to get the show on the road.
Okay, as everyone is entering, can everybody please quiet down?
All right, we got a couple of tweets. Sierra Campbell says, Lindsay, you're so extra.
No need to be mad, baby girl.
Senorita Cavallaro says, Kevin, ¿por qué no dice poemas en español? Próximo año. It means, why don't you tell me poems in Spanish next year? Grace Rushala says, this would be so much better if Kev had an addition to his outfit, maybe a handmade pocket square. And a real great one from Seamus O'Keefe. Shout out to the man, the myth, the legend, Troy Bachman, for killing it on the piano.
All right, and up next is Jesse Colifrath.
Guys, a reminder, when we say quiet in the house, that means to be quiet while whoever is reciting their poem. So, quiet in the house.
A Season of Phantasmal Peace by Derek Walcott. Then all the nations of birds lifted together the huge net of the shadows of this earth in multitudinous dialects, twittering tongues, stitching and crossing it. They lifted up the shadows of long pines down trackless slopes, the shadows of glass-faced towers down evening streets, the shadow of a frail plant on a city sill. The net rising, soundless as night, the birds' cries soundless until there was no longer dusk or season, decline or weather, only this passage of phantasmal light that not the narrowest shadow dared to sever. And men could not see, looking up, what the wild geese drew, what the ospreys trailed behind them in silvery ropes that flashed in the icy sunlight. They could not hear battalions of starlings waging peaceful cries, bearing the net higher, covering this world like the vines of an orchard, or a mother drawing the trembling gauze over the trembling eyes of a child fluttering to sleep. It was the light that you will see at evening on the side of a hill in yellow October. And no one hearing knew what change had brought into the ravens cawing, the killdeer's screech, the ember-circling chuff, such an immense, soundless, and high concern for the fields and cities where the birds belong, except it was their seasonal passing. Love, made seasonless, or from the high privilege of their birth, something brighter than pity for the wingless ones below them, who shared dark holes in windows and in houses. And higher they lifted the net with soundless voices, above all change, betrayals of falling suns. And the season lasted one moment, like the pause between dusk and darkness, between fury and peace. But, for such as our earth is now, it lasted long.
All right, everyone, our next recitation will be done by John Davis.
Everyone who is entering, please sit down quietly.
John, we'll give you a minute to prepare. All right, here's John Davis.
Quiet in the house.
Very Large Moth by Craig Arnold, after DHL. Your first thought when the light snaps on and the black wings clatter about the kitchen is a bat. The clear part of your mind considers rabies. The other part does not consider, knows only to startle and cower away from the slap of its wings, though it is soon clearly not a bat, but a moth, and harmless. Still, you are shy of it. It clings to the hood of the stove, not black, but brown. Its orange eyes sparkle like televisions. Its leg joints are large enough to count. How could you kill it? Where would you hide the body? A creature so solid must have a soul, and if this is so, then why not a creature half its size, or half its size again, and so on, down to the ants? Clearly it must be saved. Caught in a shopping bag and rushed to the front door, afraid to crush it, feeling the plastic rattle, loosened into the night air. It batters the porch light, throwing fitful shadows around the landing. That was a really big moth, is all you can say to the doorman who has watched your whole performance with a smile. The half compassion and half horror we feel for the creatures we want not to hurt and prefer not to touch. Thank you.
Thank you again, Troy. Up next is Jillian Buckley.
Quiet in the house.
Sweetness by Stephen Dunn. Just when it has seemed I couldn't bear one more friend waking with a tumor, one more maniac with a perfect reason, often a sweetness has come and changed nothing in the world except the way I stumbled through it. For a while lost in the ignorance of loving someone or something, the world shrunk to mouth size, hand size, and never seeming small. I acknowledge there is no sweetness that doesn't leave a stain. No sweetness that's ever sufficiently sweet. Tonight, a friend called to say his lover was killed in a car he was driving. His voice was low and guttural. He repeated what he needed to repeat, and I repeated the one or two words we have for such grief until we were speaking only in tones. Often, a sweetness comes, as if on loan, stays just long enough to make sense of what it means to be alive, then returns to its dark source. As for me, I don't care where it's been or what bitter road it's traveled to come so far to taste so good. Thank you.
Real quick, we got a very practical tweet from Senorita Cavallaro. Don't forget that today is the last day to order your candy cane grams. It will make your friend's day. Get them at second lunch or visit Mr. Jake's or Senorita by 2:30.
Alrighty, and up next is Mitchell Powers.
Quiet in the house.
The Obligation to be Happy by Linda Pastan. It is more onerous than the rites of beauty or housework, harder than love. But you expect it of me casually, the way you expect the sun to come up, not in spite of rain or clouds, but because of them. And so I smile, as if my own fidelity to sadness were a hidden vice, that downward tug on my mouth. My old suspicions that health and love are brief irrelevancies, no more than laughter in the warm dark, strangled at dawn. Happiness, I try to hoist it on my narrow shoulders again. A knapsack heavy with gold coins. I stumble around the house, bump into things only Midas himself would understand.
Our next reciter will be Christina Balea.
Quiet in the house.
One Art by Elizabeth Bishop. The art of losing isn't hard to master. So many things seem filled with the intent to be lost that their loss is no disaster. Lose something every day. Accept the fluster of lost door keys the hour badly spent. The art of losing isn't hard to master. Then practice losing farther, losing faster, places and names and where it was you meant to travel. None of these will bring disaster. I lost my mother's watch. And look, my last or next to last of 3 loved houses went. The art of losing isn't hard to master. I lost 2 cities, lovely ones, and vaster, some realms I owned, 2 rivers, a continent. I miss them, but it wasn't a disaster. Even losing you, the joking voice, a gesture I love, I shan't have lied. It's evident the art of losing isn't too hard to master, though it may look like, write it, like disaster. Thank you.
We have a couple tweets with our hashtag. Caitlin Grafton says, poetry rocks. I agree. Aiden Rich says, hey, Kevin, what about those poetry jokes I found for you earlier? I didn't use them. Lemonhead says, can we give Troy a nice applause?
And up next is Aiden McCarthy.
Quiet in the house.
He was a big man, says the size of his shoes on a pile of broken dishes by the house. A tall man, too, says the length of the bed in an upstairs room. And a good, God-fearing man, says the Bible with a broken back on the floor below the window, dusty with sun. But not a man for farming, say the fields cluttered with boulders in the leaky barn. A woman lived with him, says the bedroom wall papered with lilacs and the kitchen shelves covered with oilcloth. And they had a child, says a sandbox made from a tractor tire. Money was scarce, say the jars of plum preserves and canned tomatoes sealed in the cellar hole. And the winter's cold, say the rags in the window frames. It was lonely here, says the narrow country road. Something went wrong, says the empty house in the weed-choked yard. Stones in the field say he was not a farmer. The steel seal jars in the cellar say she left in a nervous haste. And the child? Its toys are strewn in the yard like branches after a storm. A rubber cow, a rusty tractor with a broken plow, a doll in overalls. Something went wrong, they say.
All right, everyone, please remember to be quiet if you're getting up and heading to class. Our next reciter is Liz Sutton.
Quiet in the house.
Domestic Situation by Ernest Hilbert. Maybe you've heard about this, maybe not. A man came home and chucked his girlfriend's cat in the wood chipper. This really happened. Dinner wasn't ready on time. A lot of other little things went wrong. He spat on her father, who came out when he learned about it. He also broke her pinky, stole her checks, and got her sister pregnant. But she stood by him, stood strong through it all, because she loved him. She loved him, you see, she actually said that. And then she went and married him. She felt some unique call. Don't try to understand what another person means by love. Don't even bother.
To anyone new coming in, we have a Twitter hashtag live right now. It's hashtag POL19. We have a tweet from Annika Ellis. Shout out to Cromwell, period 4.
Alrighty, and up next is Tony Sophia.
Quiet in the house.
This is Happiness by Jane Kenyon. There's just no accounting for happiness, or the way it turns up like a prodigal, who comes back to the dust at your feet, having squandered fortune far away. And how can you not forgive? You make a feast in honor of what was lost, and take from its place the finest garment, which you save for an occasion you could not imagine, and you weep night and day to know that you were not abandoned. That happiness saved its most extreme form for you alone. No. Happiness is the uncle you never knew about, who flies a single-engine plane onto the grassy landing strip, hitchhikes into town, and inquires at every door until he finds you asleep mid-afternoon, as you so often are during the unmerciful hours of your despair. It comes to the monk in his cell. It comes to the woman sweeping the street with a birch broom, to the child whose mother has passed out from drink. It comes to the lover, to the dog chewing a sock, to the pusher, to the basket maker, and to the clerk stacking cans of carrots in the night. It even comes to the boulder and the perpetual shade of pine barrens, to rain falling on the open sea, to the wine glass, weary of holding wine.
Thank you, Troy. Up next is Megan O'Keefe.
Everybody, quiet in the house.
A Locked House, W.D. Snodgrass. As we drove back, crossing the hill, the house still hidden in the trees, I always thought, a fool's fear, that it might have caught fire, Someone could have broken in, as if things must have been too good here. Still, we always found it locked tight, safe and sound. I mentioned that once, as a joke. No doubt we spoke of the absurdity to fear some dour god's jealousy of our good fortune. From the farm next door, our neighbors saw no harm came to the things we cared for here. What did we have to fear? Maybe I should have thought all such things rot, fall. Barns, houses, furniture, we too are stronger than we were apart. We've grown together. Everything we own can burn. We know what counts. Some such idea we said as much. We'd watch friends driven to betray, felt that love drained away some self they need. We'd said love, like a growth, can feed on hate we turn in disguise. We warned ourselves that you might despise me. Hate all we both loved best. None of us ever guessed. The house still stands, locked as it stood, untouched a good 2 years after you went. Some things passed in the settlement, some things slipped away. Enough's left that I come back sometimes. The theft and vandalism were our own. Maybe we should have known.
We got a couple of live tweets. VZ Jackson says, "Hi, Kevin." Hey, VZ. Emma Walsh says, "Watching live from Cam. Why is everyone so good?" At the time, I'd like to get a big round of applause for Ben for setting up the live stream. We got another tweet that says, "Nice job, Pentucket. Great poems. Special shout out to John Davis for making my day."
All right, and up next is Molly Forget.
Everybody, quiet in the house.
The Enigma by Anne Stevenson. Falling to sleep last night in a deep crevasse between one rough dream and another, I seemed still awake to be stranded on a stony path, and there the familiar enigma presented itself in the shape of a little trembling lamb. It was lying like a pearl in the trough between one Welsh slab and another, and it was crying. I looked around as anyone would for its mother. Nothing was there. What did I know about lambs? Should I pick it up, carry it? Where? What would I do if it were dying? The hand of my conscience fought with the claw of my fear. It wasn't so easy to imitate the Good Shepherd in that faded, framed Sunday school picture filtering now through the dream's daguerreotype. With the wind fallen and the moon swollen to the full, small white doubles of the creature at my feet flared like candles in the creases of the night until it looked to be alive with newborn lambs. Where could they all have come from? A second look, and the bleeding lambs were birds, kittiwakes nesting clustered on a cliff face, fixing on me their dark, accusing eyes. They had a kind of imperative, not to touch them, but to be of them, whatever they were, now lambs, now birds, now floating points of light, fireflies signaling how many lost New England summers. One form, now another. One configuration, now another. Like fossils locked deep in the folds of my brain, outliving a time by telling its story. Like stars. Thank you.
Just a reminder for everyone who's coming in to please quiet down.
We got a tweet from Pentucket's own Sandra Goodrich, watching poetry out loud on Pentucket TV during chemistry while making chemistry ornaments. Also, another tweet from Nathan Oliphant. Can we just take a moment to appreciate all of the people who are missing lunch for this? Our next presenter is Audrey Thronson.
Quiet in the house.
What the Oracle Said by Shara McCallum. You will leave your home. Nothing will hold you. You will wear dresses of gold, skins of silver, copper, and bronze. The sky above you will shift in meaning each time you think you understand. You will spend a lifetime chipping away layers of flesh. The shadow of your scales will always remain. You will be marked by sulfur and salt. You will bathe endlessly in clear streams and fail to rid yourself of that scent. Your feet will never be your own. Stone will be your path. Storms will follow in your wake, destroying all those who take you in. You'll desert your children, kill your lovers, and devour their flesh. You will love no one but the wind and ache of your bones. Neither will love you in return. With age, your hair will grow matted and dull. Your skin will gape and hang in long folds. Your eyes will cease to shine. But nothing will be enough. The sea will never take you back.
We have a tweet. Kev, good job from Jack Loisy. Kev, good job filling my shoes. And Lindsay, you wear that prom dress almost as good as my prom date did last year.
Thank you, Anna, for coming through with the dress. I appreciate it.
We also have another tweet from Danny O'Connor that says, Kevin, you should rap for this. # make Pentucket great again.
Alrighty, and up next is Annika Ellis.
Everybody, quiet in the house.
Quite Frankly, by Mark Halliday. They got old. They got old and died. But first they composed plangent depictions of how much they lost and how much cared about losing. Meantime, their hair got thin and more thin as their shoulders went slumpy.
Okay, but not before the photo albums got arranged by them. Arranged with a niftiness. Not just 2 or 3, but 18 photo albums. Yes, 18 eventually. 18 albums proving the beauty of them, and not someone else, them, and their relations and friends incontrovertible. Playing croquet in that Bloomington yard, floating on those comic inflatables at Dow Lake, giggling at the Dairy Queen, waltzing at the wedding, building a Lego palace on the porch, holding the baby beside the rental truck, leaning on the Hemingway statue at Pamplona, discussing the eternity of art in that Sardinian restaurant. Yes, and so, quite frankly, at the end of the day, they got old and died. Okay, sure. But quite frankly, how much does that matter in view of the 18 photo albums? Big ones, 13 inches by 12 inches, each full of such undeniable beauty.
We got a couple of our last tweets for the day. Lindsay Brassel says, "Can someone please get me some milk, because Lindsay's looking spicy today." McLean says, "LOL, I'm watching the live stream from math class." And Ella Moradian says, "Shout out to Miss Ducalon for hyping me up during second period." Anyways, we have our last presenter of the day, Mr. Zach Haynes.
Quiet in the house.
The Last Laugh by Wilfred Owen. "Oh, Jesus Christ, I'm hit," he said and died, whether he vainly cursed or prayed indeed. The bullets chirped in vain, 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 and the machine guns chuckled, tut-tut, tut-tut, and the big gun guffawed. Another sighed, "Oh, mother, mother, dad," and smiled at nothing, childlike, being dead. "My love," one moaned, love languid seemed his mood, till slowly lowered, his whole face kissed the mud. And the bayonet's long teeth grinned, and the rabbles of shells hooted and groaned, and the gas hissed.
Alrighty, wonderful job to all of the poet reciters. We just wanted to give a round of applause to Troy for doing wonderful on the piano today. We also want to thank our bouncers who were by the doors taking care of business. Charlie Greenberg, Joe Lynch, Tyler Mitchell, and Zach Roberts.
A couple more huge thanks to Ben Bulio and Tyler Pfifferling. Both did an incredible job throughout this, both today and yesterday. A round of applause for them, please. And finally, another huge round of applause for Miss Cromwell as well as the English department for running this whole event. And that's all we have for today. Our results will be released later, I believe in this afternoon. That's all we got, and thank you guys.
Have a great day.